Good morning and welcome to Make It Grow here on Wolf FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.wolffm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553. Deb, tell us about what's going on over here.
Good morning, Ron. How are you this morning on October the 18th? We've had a busy sort of week, haven't we?
Sure have.
Well, we're so glad to have some friends here with us, and we're going to be talking about plants and gardening and anything that you need to ask them. Here's the experts you need to call in. We have Linda Merritt with us and Patrick Sweat.
Good morning.
That right?
Yep, that's
Patrick
right.
Sweat. And I want to call you Sweet.
Oh, all right.
Fine with him. Go ahead.
Sure.
Patrick Sweat is our extension agent, or one of our extension
Right.
agents, and so he can really answer those hard questions, or
Been
he
here
can make up
going
good
on
answers.
8 months now
Yeah,
in this position?
A little less, actually. I've only been here since May.
Oh, May. Okay. Well, I
And
remember
he
you.
tells me he grew up in Winston, North Carolina.
Winston-Salem,
North
yeah.
Carolina.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
why do they call it Winston-Salem?
It was actually named after a couple different German religious communities. One of them was the Moravians. And there were two different religious communities. They decided they'd do a lot better if they got together. And so they formed one town, Winston-Salem, and we named a lot of cigarette companies after that.
There
Sure
you
did.
go.
Yeah, but
and
now-
the Moranians are the ones that were here that ministered to the Cherokee, or came into this area to minister to the Cherokee.
Now tell him why that's Soddy and Daisy.
I have no
There's
idea.
Big Soddy and Little Soddy, and then there's Daisy, but they call it Soddy Daisy.
Daisy.
So that's why it's
That's
called
another-
Soddy
that's
and why
another
it's called
show.
Daisy, I don't know. So you know a lot more about that. This program is sponsored by the Bradley County Master Gardeners Association, or program, or what do we call that? Club? Organization, and which is a part of the UT Agriculture Extension Agency program here.
Correct.
That so and when the extension agents are out taking care of these huge farms and all the other problems, hopefully the master gardeners will come along and help you with your smaller gardening type activities. And
Yes, you
and
can
your
call in
yawn.
anytime.
And so there's always someone there to help you. And if they don't know, there are a lot of us, so we can ask that. If you'd like to become a master gardener, they have classes once a year, and it'll be coming up January, February next year.
Yeah, I think we're looking to start the end of February
Yeah.
for that. And we're at the Apple Festival, so you can come and
Right.
talk
The
to us
Apple
there.
Festival
and-
starts today at 10 o'clock, and
Yes.
it runs all day. And the Master Gardeners do have a booth there and have some plants for sale, I understand,
Yes,
too.
we do. We have Lenten roses, we have black-eyed Susans, we have strawberries, and we have some pansies.
There
Well,
you go.
I know where I need to go right after this,
This
you know.
is good. There is an entrance fee, but it's quite reasonable. At the Apple Festival, it's $5 for adults per day. Seniors get in for $4. Young children get in for $4, and under 2 are free. And you can buy a family pass if you happen to have a whole load of
Gaggle.
children, a gaggle of
Yeah.
children. There's a limit on the number of children that can come in under the $20 family pass, but it's worth asking about.
Mhm.
And it's always great fun, and there's always good stuff there to eat, including go by and see Anthony Dunn.
Yeah, G Daddy's Barbecue.
He usually has apple smoked chicken.
Oh, all right.
Oh, that
We've got
sounds
someone
That
calling
comes
here.
to the Moore House when we have parties, the
Yes.
apple smoked chicken.
Good morning. You're listening to Make It Grow.
Hey, Mr. Ron Moorhead.
Hey,
Hey,
Bob.
Bullet.
I actually talked to your son over there last night.
Yeah, he was over at the Cleveland Walker Valley game, which was a very interesting football game, I understand.
Yes, it was. It was kind of a, I'll be honest with you, a game like that, you don't want to see either one lose, but of course I'm a Cleveland fan. I'm glad they won, but it was a defensive game at first, and it turned into a little bit of offense at the last, but it was an exciting game. I just want to ask you, where can you get those pansies at?
The pansies are at the Master Gardener booth. I think we're on Broad Street. We're right in front of the post office.
That's Broad
behind,
Street.
In between the post office and the courthouse.
Okay, because I'm thinking about getting some, and can you know how much? Well,
Yeah, all the plants that we have are individually potted up, and they're $1.
Oh, okay.
That's
Yep.
not bad.
And that's basically a donation to our organization, and that will go to help fund some of our programs.
So, Bullet, if you got $100, we can get you 100 plants today.
Well, I don't think we have 100 pansies, but
That sure sounds good, Ron, and I heard you was at McMinn.
Yes, it was a very interesting ball game. They scored. Defense did not come to that game. It was 49-32, And the reason it was that difference is McMinn fumbled twice because they just scored. They had 2 punts in the entire ball game.
Ron, there's one more thing I'd like to ask you. That there guest you had on here a couple weeks ago, his name was Bob. Was it Bob Gill?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to have to bring him. I'm supposed to bring him some tickets down there sometime this morning. Leave them with you. I made a bet with him, and I'm going to give him a couple of tickets to Stone Mountain.
Whoa,
sounds
that's
great.
nice.
Well, he's Red brought him something too, so Bob's racking up.
Bob's racking up.
Well, when you're a guest on this shows, here they just get
hey,
all the.
Bullet, on those pansies, where are you going to? I know you're going to put those at the cemetery, but are you going to put them by the gate, or where are you going to put them?
No, they're actually going to be right there where you go up the little. I don't know if you call it the cathedral where we put the casket at.
Okay. Well, let me ask Patrick. Patrick, this is Robert, and he takes care of the Veterans Cemetery at Fort Hill.
Okay.
Volunteers to do that. And he's wanting to plant something there, and I'm sure he'd like for it to be something that perhaps might come back year after year. Can you make a recommendation for him that something that might come back there?
Yeah.
I don't think the pansies will come back.
No,
But
the pansies-
sometimes you'll get one or two.
Yeah, the pansies are annuals actually, and they will reseed themselves, so they will kind of blanket out and come back. The Lenten roses that we have, those are actually annuals, and perennials, and they do quite well here.
Okay.
And they will reproduce and send out new ones after they get established. So if you're trying to fill up a space, and they're just gorgeous, and they're kind of early bloomers.
And this is a great time to be actually planting or replanting perennials.
Yes, dividing plants and planting pretty much anything is a good
Just make
idea.
sure that you water them enough when you actually get them in the ground, and also put a little bit of mulch down to keep the soil warmer and wetter as the colder weather comes on.
Okay, Robert. Have a good day.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye, bud. He's taken care of that cemetery for years.
Wonderful.
And never a blade of grass out of place inside the Veterans Cemetery. He
That's
takes care of it
wonderful.
well.
Got another
That's
call
terrific.
here.
He's
Good
fighting
morning.
ants
You're
right
on
now, too.
Make It Grow.
Hey Ron, I was just kidding about betting $100 on tennis, or getting somebody to bet $100 against me on Tennessee. I didn't have no $100 anyway.
Oh well, I understand that. And probably a smart thing that you would back out of that bet.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, no, I was for Ole Miss, and I was trying to get somebody to bet 100 on Tennessee. But anyway.
All right. Well,
I was just kidding, but I need to ask. I was wanting to ask: is it too early for fall bulbs?
You can actually plant fall bulbs going on into December, but this is a good time right now. I'd say you should definitely want to move on that. Linda?
Yes, actually, by the end of the month, actually, would be a good time to start doing that, and that way we can be sure that the weather's not going to be too warm again.
Yeah.
But I honestly would wait until like the last week or so of October and then start your fall planting and putting the bulbs in. Just make sure you get them at least 4 or 5 inches down in the ground.
Oh yeah, ice is first frost and everything.
Some of them need 6, but most of them can do with 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sid. Good to hear from you, buddy.
Hey, listen, do they have any big pots of pansies up there?
I think they just have little single pots.
Yes, we just have they're like 2.5, 3-inch pots.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't sell any bigger pots up there?
No,
not at the Apple Festival. They don't.
No, you can go to Ace Hardware. It's got a lot of them for sale, so you could go there if you need more than what we have.
Yeah, I have a few pots left. So anyway, I wanted to ask about that. And then, is it too late to plant turnip greens?
I would say yes to that.
I would agree, yeah.
They're not going to have time to get established and hold off the first few frosts that we're going to have.
But I am talking to a lot of people who are putting garlic in the ground right now, actually.
Yes.
yeah, I bought some garlic, getting ready to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to try. I always try every year. Try to plant something new that I try to kill something new every year.
Yes. Well, yeah. You're not a master gardener unless you've killed a few plants in your day.
They are actually a lot of cold weather crops, but I can't name as many as that woman can.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll let you guys go.
Thank you,
All
Sid.
right,
Good
thanks,
talking
Sid.
to you,
Bye-bye
buddy.
now.
What about hostas? Is this a good time to separate your hostas?
Yes, actually, it's a really good time to do that. I would do it soon, though.
We have like this massive hosta that needs to be taken down.
And we have irises and lilies, and we got a lot of things that need
we
to be
need to be
separated.
digging in our dirt. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Divide them all up and get them replanted. And again, as Patrick mentioned, keep them watered and mulched, and so they can get root established. Don't worry about the vegetation because that's going to fall off anyway.
In some cases, we actually do advise, with some perennials, cutting off the top, letting them die back a little bit, and then going to replant them. Because one of the issues you run into when you're breaking up perennials and replanting them is them actually drying out. Not a lot of people think about these plants drying out over the winter, but as long as there's green matter, as long as there's the plant above ground, then you still are losing water to that evapotranspiration. So that's why I'm saying keep them watered when you get them in the ground, even if it's, good and cold.
Now the irises, you just break them apart and put them 6 inches, or
Depends on how big an area.
Well, the irises are the tubers.
Yes.
And those actually need to be planted just barely.
Right.
You don't dig a hole and stick those tubers in there. Actually, the top part of the tuber needs to stay slightly above ground, or
So
just
like an
under
onion,
mulch.
like you'd plant an onion? maybe?
Otherwise, they get too wet and then they'll rot.
Mhm.
So in order to keep that from happening, you do need to keep those right at surface level.
And the hostas, you just separate them and same thing? Just
When you dig them out, make sure you dig a nice big hole so you can keep as many of the roots intact when you're digging around the whole plants. When you separate them, I usually tell people to just go ahead and find a natural break in the plant, if there is one, and follow that down and pull them apart. The goal here is to keep the living crown as much intact as possible.
Same thing with lilies?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
And I think our problem is that over the years, everything's kind of
We haven't done that. That's
blended
what the problem
in.
is.
So when there's not much planting in our garden this year, as far as putting the tall irises in the back, and because everything's just kind of gotten all mixed in together, so it will be a surprise garden next year, which is fine with us.
Probably what we need to do is dig down about 3 foot and put some actual soil in there too would help.
That might help.
We have a flower bed up by the house, and it just and you have to admit, around this area here, we don't have a lot of deep soil anyway. I mean,
No.
topsoil
It
6
does need
inches is a good level. around here.
However, the English ivy loves it.
It's true.
It has
Yeah.
taken over.
It grows on everything.
And the
though.
Virginia creeper and the
Yeah. That's called too much of a good thing.
Talking about fall crops, garlic. It's just you can go to the store and buy the cloves and plant those, right?
You can, absolutely. You can also, we also have a number of local growers who have online seed companies, and I know that they harvest their own seed that's been successful here in
Local
Bradley
people
County.
do that?
Isn't that cool? Yeah.
Who does that?
Davis Greenhouse is one of them. They have an online seed company, and who else is the other one? We have a couple of them. I think that I think the other one is Red Clay Farm over there by the state park.
Oh yeah.
And they harvest their own
I
seed.
did hear that.
And I think, if anything, proven seed here in Bradley County. That a lot of confidence, support a local business, local farming families. That's always exciting.
Sure is. Now, a seed that is started here, does it grow better in this region, or does a seed doesn't care where it is?
Well, seed's always going to care where it is. Okay. I'm sure lots of gardeners can attest to that.
Yes.
But in this case, it's you might call it nativized, or at least plants that have proven in real time to have weathered the unique climatic conditions that we're experiencing year to year.
Well, like someone asked us about rutabagas, and basically our climate doesn't really suit that. And it was a weird plant anyway after I read about it, and how, don't eat it for 3 years, don't eat the leaves, they're poisonous. And I was going, I don't know why I want
And
to.
you wonder who found out it was poisonous if you ate the leaves.
And
the
they're
first 3
very
years.
tart unless you put them in sugar and make a pie out of them.
I actually I was living up in Vermont for a little while, and I remember one summer we actually had an amazing influx of rutabagas. And what do you do when you have a cooler full of rutabagas? Well, you have a rutabaga cooking contest. And so you said put it in sugar. We put rutabaga in pies. We put rutabaga in casserole. We dressed it up as, an apple tart.
Is it
was
is it kind of bitter like a turnip?
It is a
It
little
is,
bitter,
yeah.
yes.
See, I always think a turnip's like
For folks who don't have experience with rutabaga for one reason or another, maybe they're lucky.
Yeah, really.
But for folks who don't know what a rutabaga looks like, it's sort of like a very large white turnip. It grows underground. It's a little bit knobbier. It's a really great starchy vegetable, actually. But and with many cases, the real trick is finding a way to cook it that you like it. So if you find a way to grow it, if you choose to grow it in the early season or in the later season, the trick is getting online, getting some recipes, or maybe even consulting your local extension office.
Yeah.
We usually have some good veggie recipes.
And it it needs an average temperature of heat of 75 degrees, which sort of knocks us out and then a coolness below 40 is what I read. I'm going, that doesn't really
that's
suit
not our
us, here. So, and then
we're either 100 degrees or 40 degrees.
It's one of those plants that takes a while for it to develop, for it to really, for it becomes productive. And it didn't sound like anything, and it was bitter. And I said, I don't think I want to try to grow that. Now, I am going to try to grow asparagus. I've never done that before.
Exciting.
And so the plants, Gruny, is that the name of the big greenhouse? Gruny. Anyway, that's what everybody told me to go there. And the garlic will ship here in the next early December. And they plant, the asparagus in there. And it's a perennial.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. And so,
that takes a few years to establish.
It does, yeah.
That's what we
That's
sow.
a
I've got
long-term
time,
investment.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like 3 years or something. Ron, you may have missed Kenneth Roark's picture on Facebook yesterday, but his greens are in, and he had this huge, do you know him from McDonald? He had this huge bed of greens that looked fabulous.
He's quite a gardener down there.
Excellent.
Kenneth Roark down in the McDonald area, and he must have canned more stuff than I ever owned, I think, this year.
Right.
He does a tremendous job. So it's getting a little late to plant even the cool weather plants now, right? You need to have them in the ground September.
It depends on. I
Yeah.
mean, you could probably still put something like kale.
Yeah.
Because that's a really good hardy cold weather, leafy green. You could do that. You could probably get away with maybe some of the hardier leaf lettuce, romaine. The red romaine seems to do. I've had luck with that doing well after a frost. And then you can still put in the ground if you want to do a cold frame, but that's getting a little bit labor intensive. So it depends on how much actual labor you want to put into it. But
Really, the crops that we're sort of right on the edge of where you can still plant. A lot of them are going to be in the brassica family, and so that's your kale, that's your cabbage if you don't mind them ending up rather small.
Right.
That's you could plant broccoli and eat the tops.
Yes.
But
some
a lot
of your
those,
root vegetables are still going to be okay. Carrots do pretty well, even if their little tops get frozen. The root part of it seems to still do okay as long as the ground isn't getting frozen.
And really, at this point, having even if you don't want to go all the way into getting a cold frame, getting a roll of Rime or some of that white woven fabric-looking stuff, that'll actually really bring your late season crops through a lot.
Yes.
With those first few frosts, those don't have to knock them down. But I'll tell you, I've been going around to a lot of different farms, folks who have even the most rudimentary of hoop houses, and there's still tomatoes out there. A lot of people are surprised. Sometimes they go to the farmer's market and they're surprised to see these big, beautiful, typically summer crops. But in some cases, we have some really exceptional farmers and gardeners here in Bradley County who can grow some of those crops all the way into the fall.
And it has stayed warm a little longer this year. Not hot, but it stayed warmer. So that.
Yeah, but if you do cover them up and do a cold frame or the fabric, like Patrick said, just don't forget to take it off.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll cook them.
What if you just have a small garden and you want to plant out? Can you throw out mustard seeds now and just put some green in there, stuff you can turn over later in the year? Or
yeah.
So what would be a good
Cover
thing?
crops?
Cover crops. Yeah.
Cover crops, absolutely.
What kind would you use?
Right now, I've seen a lot of people putting out crimson clover, and that's really excellent. It's a legume, it being a clover, and so it's going to fix nitrogen in your soil. You can let it grow out through the fall, and then come next season, you can go ahead, get out your rototiller, get out your mantis, whatever you have, and turn that back in, and that will enrich your soil, give it more nutrients, give it more organic matter, and it really is putting fertilizer in the off season.
So now, does this ground cover also, although adds the nitrogen, does it help prevent weeds in the future?
It does, yeah. We call them cover crops, and they really accomplish a lot of different purposes. They can smother out weeds. They can fix nitrogen, like I mentioned. They increase the organic matter content. And something that not a lot of folks think about is they hold soil in place. And so if you think about if you have a bare field right now, and you go and you leave it through the winter, and we get those heavy rains in the spring, really before anything can grow out there, a lot of your soil can wash away depending on what your slope and what your aspect is right there. And so having a little crop of crimson clover over it can really hold the soil in place, and you can see a lot of benefit from it.
You know, if someone wanted to go out and throw turnip greens out, is that still a good cover crop, and is something you could eat also?
You could theoretically eat it. I don't want to say you'll put turnip greens out and you'll definitely get a salad, but you'll definitely, at this point, I would say you could feel confident that you get some green matter that would accomplish a lot of those same goals. It's not a legume, so it's not going to fix nitrogen, but it'll still add to your soil.
Okay, good. Okay. So what about putting your lawn to sleep?
Okay, yeah. So I hear
mine does it naturally, but
depending on what kind of grass you have, it's really going to depend what you want to do. A lot of people ask, do we want to fertilize our lawns right now? And I say, well, it really depends on what's actually growing in there, because if you have a Bermuda grass lawn, if you have a warm season lawn, it is going to sleep. It's going dormant right now. And so if it's dormant, what's going to use the fertilizer? That's going to be your weeds right there. And so the whether or not you actually want to be putting urea or a different fertilizer out there on your lawn, that's going to be really for the folks who have the fescue lawns, the cooler season grass lawns, because if you're fertilizing the weeds, you're kind of walking backwards, is what I say. So
what about thatching your yard? Is that something you need to do now, or spring, or? You
could do that right now. You might also, once again, do it in the spring, thatching it if it's a cool season crop a cool season grass, it might set it back a little bit. But I'd say, in most cases, you could dethatch your lawn. You could aerate it right now.
Tell our listeners that don't know what that word means, okay?
That's going through with an aerator, or in some cases, I see folks out there with their yard rakes, and basically it's pulling up all the dead grass stems and leaves that get down between the grass plants, and really kind of smother out the ground, smother out, like I mentioned earlier, the crowns, the growing parts of those grasses. So what that looks like in the real world is you go out there with your rake and you start raking your lawn, and your neighbors drive by and say, what is he doing? But then you end up with this big pile of thatch, this big pile of dead grass parts.
Yeah, and that can be a cumulative buildup where people that put their lawnmowers on mulching instead of bagging. That's fine to do, but if you do it all the time, every single time, and never bag a few lawn mowings, then you're going to get that big thatch buildup and have to
a lot of people don't want to just do that with their leaves and just mulch their leaves. Is that good or bad?
Once again, I always feel like I say it depends, but mulching your leaves certainly is going to help them sort of disintegrate faster. It's going to help them break down and decompose a lot faster. But once again, if you have a really heavy leaf fall, or in some cases, if you have leaves that are infected with a different disease or virus, that's one other thing I was going to touch on later, then that can actually serve to spread them around your lawn some more. Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen a lot of folks coming through with various diseased maple leaves or with diseased oak leaves, and in some cases, they're actually diseases that overwinter on the leaves that fall to the ground. And so if you had, say, if your maple tree toward the end of the season started having a lot of red spotting on the tips, and you started to see those maple leaves curling up, then it's possible, I don't want to tell you you definitely do, but it's possible that you had a little run of maple anthracnose. Or if you have a dogwood tree, it could have had a little dogwood spot anthracnose. And one of the treatments we recommend for that is very easy. It's actually raking up your leaves and bagging them and throwing them away in this case, because the disease can overwinter in those leaves at the base of the tree and can set you up for an infection next fall.
What about products like, and I'll name one by Preem, which is a weed control. Is that a good thing to use or not?
Well, if you have weeds of the right sort.
Well, yeah, I have weeds. Yeah, we all have.
We
weeds,
have very healthy weeds.
Preen?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's basically it. If you
anything that seeds, it won't let it seed.
Right, and you don't want to use it around tomato plants or anything like that. But if you had certain crops, you can throw it out, and it decreases the weeds from coming back. So
I have always used it in flower beds because I'm not eating the product that it goes around, but once you get your flowers established, if you sprinkle some of it around, it will prevent other grasses from growing up in the flower bed. Not always, but a lot of them.
Yes. We always say before recommending any herbicide or pesticide, always read the label. And a lot of people say, well, I've used this for years, so I feel comfortable spraying it. But just like you said there, Deb,
Prune's usually a pellet type stuff. You just take it and throw it out, and it just.
And that will help some things, but other we had a lot of calls for clover, and in many cases, clover really needs post-emergent herbicides. So depending on your weeds, depending on what you're dealing with, there's going to be different herbicides that'll be more uniquely fitted to your situation.
You're listening to Make It Grow here on Whoop FM 99.9, or you can go to the internet at www.whoopfm.com. You can call us here at 614-5553 to talk about your fall gardening needs or lawn care or shrubbery, or we'll talk about pruning here in a few minutes. Everybody wants to know when you prune your tree and what you do with them. This is a program by the Bradley County Master Gardeners Organization, and it's a program of the UT Agricultural Extension Agency.
Yes.
Boy,
and the phone number is
728-000.
Help.
I got some of it right.
You got part of it right.
You're
you did.
really close.
Seven.
What is it?
728-7001.
Oh.
I knew there was a 1 in there and there's some zeros.
Yeah.
I
He
missed
knew
that
there were
7.
some numbers involved.
728-7001 is the Agricultural Extension Agency office here, and you can call and ask for Kim or Patrick, or ask for some of the master gardeners. They'll be there glad to help you too. One of the big things I want to tell you, if you don't know about your soil, there you can go by there and get a soil kit, and you can have your soil tested. I think it's $7 for a. Now, is that true?
For the basic
Mm-hmm.
basic test. And actually, we have soil test kits and the paperwork at our booth at the Apple Festival. So if you're interested in doing that, we can help you with that today and tomorrow.
If you want to grow better tomatoes next year, I mean, you have your soil tested, and it has a part in the form that says, I want to grow tomatoes, if I want to grow corn or whatever. And then it will tell you how to get a sample up. It's a small box. It's sent off to the University of Tennessee, right?
Yes. It is, yeah, to our Nashville Soil Plant and Pest Center.
And so they will come back and they will give you this printout saying you need to add this, or you have too much of this. This is how you counteract that. So it will really help you, and it's a $7 investment. Now you can add things to it, and you can have soil tested for 2 or 3 different things, right?
Correct.
Yeah, it's actually a really excellent service, and we offer a lot of support with it. Sometimes people say, well, I've never tested my soil before. I'm not sure how to go about doing it. And we offer a lot of support in that case. We can tell you how to sample throughout your yard or your orchard or your hayfield or really any kind of different place where there's soil. And once you get your soil sample, you sample in a number of different places. You collect a little, it's about a half cup. It's not very much, actually.
It's not very large at all.
Put it in a cardboard box, fill out the sheet, doesn't take a minute, and with a $7 check, you send that to Nashville. And Nashville will send you back a printout, or they can even email it to you, I believe.
Yes.
And if you have any questions at that point, you can bring it by the extension office, and we'll help you interpret it. And I've done that with quite a few homeowners who have gotten various recommendations back and have been unsure what the next step and what the timeline should be for that, and we're happy to help every step of the way.
If you're growing a rose garden, you do the same thing, right? It's not just for vegetables.
Correct.
It's for anything, right?
The sheet where you can check off what you're trying to grow there, it probably has 40 or 50 entries on it. So really, no matter what your situation, or whether you're a larger producer or have a backyard or just a big garden, then there's a space for that.
Yeah, and it's really great investment. It's just a few dollars, and it'll save you a lot of money in the long run. You keep putting things, my plant's not doing well, I think this is the problem. You buy stuff, you put it on there, and then you keep buying something to fix that problem, and it's just really a good idea, especially with first new gardens, not haven't been established for many years, to get that tested. And then what do we recommend testing? Every 3 years? Every 2 years?
Depending on the situation.
On what you're
if it's in a really high turnover, if you're planting a lot of vegetable crops, you may want to test it every other year. But if you're just getting your lawn tested, you probably need to test it every 2 to 3.
Well, if the grass stops growing, it might be time.
Well, what time of year is it, and what kind of grass?
Oh, yeah. If it's supposed to be growing and it's not, you may have a problem there.
Yes.
Talk about planting and everything. People have these small gardens, acre garden to me it's a huge garden, but small
it's a lot
garden.
of picking.
Yeah, a lot of picking. Well, if you're getting things to grow, it's just bending over, picking them, put them in the ground. So the hard part for me. As you get older, the ground gets farther away.
Yes.
But if you plant tomatoes every year, is it a good idea to plant those tomatoes in the same place every year in that acre garden or that half acre garden or that 40-foot garden. I mean, do you plant the tomatoes in the same spot every year?
I'm envisioning all of our listeners hopefully all going, no, it's
No.
not. Yeah.
Well, that
No.
was hopefully we lead some people right. Who wants to answer that one?
Yeah. Well, this year especially was a big year for tomato diseases. You may have seen our article in the Cleveland Daily Banner.
Let's get
All
this
right.
call right here. Go ahead, caller. You're live on Make It Grow.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, Red.
Red.
I was just wondering, and it's talking about testing the soil.
Yes.
Well, if you have it tested and it comes back and says deceased, what do you do?
I imagine they have tested some poor soil every now and then.
Well,
That's what's wrong with mine. It's deceased.
Yeah.
well, you probably need to get some kind of organic material to put back into it because dirt's dirt, and then but what the
You need
what
to gather
the,
you up some manure, Red.
yeah, what the dirt
Well,
does is
I
hold the
use that.
nutrients that the plants are going to eat, and they don't eat dirt.
Yeah.
They eat the nutrients in the dirt.
What color is your soil?
I don't know. All I know is brown looking.
Well,
Brown's-
Red, that's
brown's
from
good.
growing all that corn where you made that moonshine.
Well, I didn't grow the corn and I made the moonshine.
Oh, you just made the moonshine?
We bought the corn. But my
That's
grand-
called admitting something without telling on yourself.
But around here, everything's just deceased. Nothing will grow in the yard.
Well, you just need to get you some fertilizer and go to
Well,
it.
I would go get one of these soil sample boxes, and it's $7, and you take samples around the yard and you blend them together, and then you send them off, and they're going to tell you that your soil is dead,
Yeah.
and you need to do something with it, like this. You know what kind of fertilizer or what you need to do.
What about just getting a sign that says "Rest in Peace"?
That would work too.
That would be very seasonal right there.
Concrete and green paint. You'll always look good, natural.
Right.
Well, with your deceased soil, if you send in a sample of your rest in peace soil, it's likely that when they send it back, that one of the things they might say is that it's low in pH, and that's one of the things you get with that $7 test is they tell you your pH is more than likely too low in this case, and so what they're going to recommend is a given amount of lime per acre, and so what that allows you to do is say, I can go to the hardware store, I can go to wherever I purchase my lawn amendments at, and put out a little bit of this basic material to bring the pH up and hopefully revive your soil. So.
Okay.
Now, do you have a lot of pine trees around your yard?
No,
Or
I've got these old silver maples, and I hate them. They take the roots of them, take everything. You can make a flower bed, and they will choke the flowers to death.
Choke 'em.
They do. The roots get around them and kill your flowers.
They look pretty this time of year, though, don't they?
That's true.
No, they don't even get pretty. They're that old ugly. They just turn an old ugly brown and fall off.
So you don't get any bright colors out of them?
No. And I hate the things. I'd like to take a fire saw and cut them all down.
Well, go ahead and call me. I want to come over and watch that, Red.
Well, I'll do it. Okay, thanks.
Bye, Red.
If you go up to the Apple Festival today, you can get one of those soil sample
Yes.
kits, and the people up there will be able to tell you how to do it. And like I say, it's pretty simple.
You know why I don't go up there, Ron?
Why's that?
Because you have to pay to get in.
Yeah, they do charge you.
If you have to pay to get in, why do you want to go buy something?
Well, if you just want to come by the extension office anytime during the week, then we won't charge you at the door.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Red.
That is true, and I always think, gosh, they should just let me in so I can spend my money, but it costs a lot of money to put on something like the Apple
It does.
Festival.
Yeah. Another caller. You got the phones woke up this morning. Good morning. You're live on Make It Grow.
I don't know if this would be an alternative or not, but that free test that Bob, his name Bob, sounds like the best deal to me. But I've got a Ferry Morris electronic soil tester, and it checks pH levels, nutrients, and levels of soil in no time. It's got 2 prongs on it, and a switch for pH and a switch for fertilizer analysis. And it seems to work awful well, awful good. It seems to work. They're around $20. I don't know if that'd be an alternative or not. But I know that guy's there. His name Bob. I know he's heard of one of those.
Patrick.
Patrick, yeah.
Close enough.
Yeah, a lot of those electronic soil testers, they're pretty cool actually. Those two metal prongs will send a current through the soil, and depending on the quality of the soil, depending on what we call, in some cases, the cation exchange capacity, basically the conductivity, if you want to think of it. It's measuring the resistance and inferring a lot of things from that data.
Now, that's a quick test. Would that be as good as the soil test that you send off to Nashville?
It's a really good quick test if you're testing like a large area, like if you're going to be walking through a large field. But for our homeowners who have a lot of very different, very unique situations, I still recommend the soil test, which can give you a lot of very detailed information down to your micronutrients. We can tell you the parts per million of manganese and zinc. It's pretty extensive.
Well, that might be something useful for people.
Right.
But I would think that if I was having a major problem, I would want to go through the agriculture extension so that they'd help me with that problem once I got my soil.
A lot of things is what type of trees you have. If you have pine trees, as we do, the soils are going to be a little different because the pine needle is going to it's going to be more acidic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then other leaves but diseases and things have taken things out of the soil. And if you don't thatch like say, people think plants eat dirt. They really don't eat dirt. They eat what's in the dirt, and you have to put
it
nutrients.
Just holds their food for them.
That's why people use fertilizer or you use compost type thing. Thank you there.
Hey, Sid, thanks.
Bye-bye.
That's interesting. I'm glad to know that.
Then we're talking about rotating crops or not rotating crops. Tell us about that. Vegetable. Growing the tomatoes the same place every year.
Okay, yeah. So this was a big year for folks coming to the extension office and bringing me every variety of dead tomato that you could ever imagine. It was like the disease chapter of the textbook. And really, one of the first things I recommend for next year, I say, looking at this, we'll identify it, then we'll move on, is you need to move your tomato plant to different spots in your garden, to different areas in your planting area, basically. And the reason for that is you're going to be breaking up the disease and pest cycle. A lot of our diseases can overwinter in the soil, and so by not planting the same plant in the same place, we're not basically giving it food. We're not feeding the disease, if you will. And so after tomatoes, you could plant, might plant corn. You might plant something in basically a different vegetable family, such as one of your brassicas, or maybe you could put some greens down right there. Lindy, thoughts on specific rotations?
Yeah, I just agree. I mean, you have to keep moving stuff. Not only that, but the nutrient requirements are different for each vegetable, slightly enough that moving them around helps to not keep depleting the same spot.
I think the key thing was to put a different plant family where you were, because some disease maybe just would take care of is a tomato type disease and may not affect corn.
Yes.
Or
last year we had beautiful tomatoes that were eaten by
ants.
Squirrels.
Oh, that's the year before last, yes.
And then this year the squirrels weren't bothering our tomatoes, and we thought, well, good. They weren't bothering our tomatoes because they were full of ants.
And you go out in the beautiful red tomato and you pick it, and then while you're standing there and hold it, there'd be a little hole somewhere on the tomato and your hand's covered in ants, and they don't feel good. They like to bite the devil out of you. So how do you do that? I try to be organic and not do all that stuff. How do you get rid of the ants?
There's a number of different organic treatments you can use. There's also a lot of what I think of as conventional or synthetic treatments. But one of the things that I really, really like for organic or sort of more natural style vegetable gardens is diatomaceous earth. We call it DE. And a lot of people say, what is that? Because I buy this $50 bag or, $20 bag, and it just looks like it's filled with dirt. What it is basically is tiny crushed up sea creature skeletons. They're these little tiny crushed up hard things. There's almost like broken glass for the insects, and you spread this around the base of you spread this across the top of your garden, and the insects don't want to walk on it because it's so sharp and it's so uncomfortable. And so some people actually use it as a dewormer in cattle. Some people use this for treating their flower beds, for treating their garden beds. But one thing that's really nice about it is it'll keep a lot of bugs from getting into your vegetable plants, but it is also safe for humans because the dangerous parts are so incredibly small.
Get that at the Bradley Farmers Co-op? I mean, where would you pick that up?
I'm not sure if the co-op has it. I feel confident that over at Beatty Fertilizer they would have that right there, or any of our nurseries probably.
Right. DE,
diatomaceous earth.
And now, is it by a brand name, or is that just to call it DE?
I can't recommend a brand name right now.
Yeah.
No, there's a few different varieties out there, but that's what it is. I mean, if you look at the bag and it says diatomaceous earth on it, then you've got the right product.
Would the big box stores have that kind of stuff?
I haven't checked, but I would say that you could probably go to Lowe's because they have a pretty good gardening section and ask for that. And I'm sure
Ace Hardware may
Ace,
have
very
it.
true. Yeah, Ace is a good
They have a
gardening
really nice
section.
garden section also. So.
So Dee, that's good.
I like going to Ace Hardware. There's people there that are actually interested in waiting on you.
Yes.
And taking care of my crazy needs.
What now? We've got a few minutes here left. Pruning. When
3 minutes.
When do you start pruning your plants, or your trees and shrubs? And
Well, that depends on what kind of shrub you have. Because some of them are setting buds now for next spring, and you certainly don't want to prune those because you'll be cutting off all the buds and you won't have any flowers. So the general rule of thumb, again, we need to know what kind of shrub you have, is to prune after they bloom. Oftentimes, a lot of them will bloom off of new growth, or they're setting buds now for next spring.
The general rule of thumb, I think, when like you said, prune after they bloom, is to prune when the plants are dormant, because that's going to stress the plant the absolute least. Getting in there and doing good pruning. Not a lot of people, not that I shouldn't say that, not enough people appreciate really good pruning down at the correct angle and in such a manner that it won't invite in disease for the next season. Now, one thing I get quite a few calls about, quite a few questions about, is hydrangeas. They say, I pruned my hydrangeas, just, I really did a good job last year. Why don't I have any flowers this year? And depending on the variety of hydrangea you have, whether you have one that blooms on new wood or blooms on old wood, is really going to depend on when you prune it. And so you need to know the variety of hydrangea you have and then prune according to that, not prune according to what you think you have.
We have one that has blooms on it smaller than a bowling ball. I mean, it's the big round blossoms, and I can never figure out when to trim it, because like you say, sometimes I get carried away and I cut off my blooms for the next year, and then the next year it seems like to me I do the exact same thing and it'll come up and bloom. This year it was beautiful foliage and not one bloom for the whole year, and we did nothing to it last year. We just left it there. So I don't know what the answer is to that crazy thing.
And,
we've lived there for 30 years and I can't. It has PMS or something.
It's upset.
At the Agricultural Extension Agency office, I'll get it's a long title. Down at the office, you probably have some flyers or information about this, or are they a good website you can go to find out about pruning and like this? Is the UT Agricultural Extension Agency website, is that a good place to go?
That's a good place to go, but really to get what I think is the best service is to come directly to the office or to call the office, and then what we have access to is a huge catalog of publications produced by the University of Tennessee. When I say produced, I mean by the researchers, the folks with the PhDs, the specialists in these given areas. So we've got some wonderful vegetable specialists, wonderful turf specialists, if you've ever met our great turf specialist, Tom Samples. And we have all these publications they've produced, which we have a pruning one, which I really like to give out to folks because it basically goes by species. It tells you when to prune, how to prune. It gives you some really excellent diagrams. And so those publications are something that we have access to through the office, and we can just load you up with those. Sometimes I end up delivering what seems like a huge tome to folks right there.
Well, let me ask you about this one. In the Master Gardener class, which you can do if you'll call 728-7001. I don't ever get it wrong twice. If you call them and put your name on the list, you'll be interested in doing this next year. Last year it was a 16-week course. It's 3 hours, roughly 3 hours. We did it on Thursday nights and went through, from how to get rid of the varmints out of your house to all the things you've heard about today. Went through this, and I understand that you're trying to do some mini classes next year. If you want to become a better vegetable gardener, you're going to have a 3-hour class for it. Is that in the making? Or did you know you were going to do that?
Surprise. No, yeah. We're actually going to have a lot of really excellent offerings for small growers next year that I think folks should be very excited about if they want to partake in the Master Gardener program. And to be very clear, the Master Gardener program, it's sponsored by the University of Tennessee Agricultural Extension, but what it really is a really fantastic volunteer organization. The Master Gardeners take this class, they get really versed in horticultural and really all kinds of topics, And then they're able to have programs that y'all have talked about at the Junior Master Gardeners. They're able to do the Apple Festival, answer a lot of homeowner questions. We're also going to have what we're going to call the Profit and Production on Small Acreage class. People say that's a bit of a mouthful. What that's going to be is it's going to be a 6 to 7 week class, one night a week, that's going to be directed right toward farmers with small acreages to help you make the most profit out of that small area. And there's also going to be some shorter-term gardening classes, but really just stay tuned because there's a lot of exciting stuff coming down.
Ron's enjoying the Junior Gardeners. He's been helping with that. Please be sure that you call in on Saturday mornings and let our listeners know about those classes coming up, because I think a lot of people that are listening will participate if they know about it. And we have a lot of folks that would like to do those kinds of things.
2 quick questions here. Crepe myrtles, when should you cut them? See, I hear that that's called crepe murder.
Yes.
The style of cutting,
Some of us refer to it as crepe murder. Again, it's what are you looking for? What do you want it to look like? Do you want it, I mean, they can get huge if you leave them alone.
Ours are huge.
2 huge ones, and
actually to cut them down to the size that we probably really want them, we'll have to cut all. I mean, you would basically cut off all the little branches, because they must be 20 foot tall.
Oh, at least. And one's got into there's a tree cover over it, and it's starting to lean to the right now, and it doesn't look as good. And so, how far can I cut that back?
We advise not to cut more than 25% of a tree off.
Okay, that's a good place to start.
That's a good rule right there.
And if you'll go down by the Extension Agency office, and it's at what address?
We're at 95 Church Street Southeast.
Right.
That would be behind the old Chase Appliance
building. If you know where the OK Barbershop used to be, it's right next door. Or if you know where the Teddy Bear was, and you don't know the Teddy Bear. Everybody don't know where the Teddy Bear is. Go just past the Teddy Bear. It's there on the left, 2-story building.
We'd like to thank Linda and Patrick for coming by today.
One final question.
I want to say that we have one more show next weekend. Next Saturday morning for Make It Grow. So be sure you tune in early.
And hopefully next year, when it gets springtime, that the Master Gardeners will agree to come on and do a growing season.
Yes, that would be great.
And like I say, 728-7001. Call them. Go come get your soil kit. You have a tree gets broken, and you cut off the dead limb. Should you put anything on that cut there, or should you just leave it natural?
I would say just leave it natural. Cut down right about to where the dead part stops, and then leave it right there. We advise against sealing the ends of cuts these days because of what you may end up sealing in that you don't want.
Okay, because they sell those products, some black gum looking stuff.
Oh, they do.
And but if a tree breaks off anywhere, just leave it alone, right?
Trim it off, and then when the tree becomes dormant, clean up the trim right there, just to make sure that it's a good clean break that can heal up naturally.
Okay.
Sounds like a winner.
Hey, folks, that's been Make It Grow here.
Stay tuned. At 10 o'clock, we'll be on with Aaron Medley from Red Clay State Park, talking about history and activities going on there now. Be sure to go down and see the Master Gardeners at the Apple Festival today.
Buy your plants down there and see G Daddy Barbecue down there.
G Daddy.
Yeah, just say that you heard it here, that Ron and Debbie said that even though Anthony Dunn's crazy, he makes pretty good barbecue.
That's right. We love it. Anthony was evaluated by the health department, his barbecue business, and he got written up for not having a no smoking sign.
Oh.
We thought that was pretty.
He says, well,
everything else was fine.
Yes.
See ya.
All right, folks, we'll see you next week here on Make It Grow, 9 o'clock.
I thought you was going to tell them we'll see you next week. I was like, no!
Oh, uptown hound, I wanna go when you're out of town. I bet you never thought you'd hear me howl.
Listen to your dogs and take them to Uptown Hound when you're headed out of town. Uptown Hound, located at 3506 Old Free Will Road, 478-0555, or find them online at myuptownhound.com.
I know you need a break, but what about me? That's what I need.
Attention all Cleveland High School alumni who graduated in the 1970s. You're invited to the Cleveland High 70s class reunion, hosted by the class of 1974. It starts Friday, October 17 with a get-together at the Elks Lodge after the Cleveland High School football game. Saturday night, October 18, the fun continues with a party at the Country Club. For more information, call Eric Evans at 476-6505. That's 476-6505. Cleveland High 70s class reunion, October 17 and 18. Don't miss it.
Head you win, tails I lose, you're still with me. Well, I should have let you go, but let you stay. I'm just like a little boy who dropped his candy in the sand. Well, he knows his bad.